game.
Yeah, first Blitz game, and it's a King's Pawn opening from Duda. Aronian nearly always replies in this way as black. And wow, we see a very aggressive line of the Italian game. Maybe not the most topical these days. Normally white takes a slower approach. What do you think, guys? This is going to heat up, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, and it's one of those variations that are so tricky that black must know how to respond to this. So this is a good move to counter-attack the bishop, and black moves the knight backwards.
Yeah, this is a bit rare. Normally black's knight jumps into the centre of the board, but for sure both players have studied this one. Actually, this is one of the oldest variations, at least it was until a couple of moves ago, one of the oldest variations, opening variations in chess. White is the first to castle. Black needs to do the same. The black king is not going to be happy in the centre. Things are going to open up. And now white temporarily a pawn down. Is he going to try and regain that pawn? We see Levon Aronian hovering there. If we see his screen, he's hovering over one of his knights. He's assuming that white is going to capture a pawn in the centre with his knight. OK, no. Instead, that knight is captured and he's retreating one of his pieces. Wow. Clearly, both players have studied this before.
Yeah. Because retreating the knight back to its starting square...
It's so bizarre.
It's very incredible.
For someone who doesn't play these openings, I'm like, what? Just like, what are you doing? So, yeah.
It's like the knight from G8 actually went over and occupied its sibling starting square. That's kind of unusual. Don't see it happen too often.
Yeah, that's true. That knight looks like it hasn't moved, but it's actually started on the other side of the board.
This is what puts me off playing these lines as black. There's so many different variations you have to learn.
You really need to know your stuff.
And if you don't know one move, you can get smashed, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't have found knight b8. That's just not a move that...
There's a similar idea, I guess, in the French defence, an opening you play, maybe. OK, we just do see a trade of pieces there. And I was going to say, finally, black can castle. But nope, he offers a queen trade first. Both players playing very quick, but just the speed with which Levon has made these moves, black tends to be doing completely fine in these openings if he knows what he's doing, and clearly he knows what he's doing, Levon. So I think the opening's been a success for him, and that knight sitting on the b8 square at home is getting ready to redevelop itself. He looks very calm, very zen there, Aronian. Normally he's kind of gesturing, he's a bit more expressive, but no, he's super focused.
Yeah. And would you say black's position is easier to play? Because to my eyes, I'm thinking, especially if the queens are traded off, I like what black's position is like. You know, he has an open lines, good pieces, and this is why Jan Christoph just moves his queen over to the h5 square. But it does look a little bit artificial, like white has got only one active piece. I mean, take a look at those pieces on the left. The knight and bishop still on their starting squares.
Yeah, there's a massive disconnect between white's queen and the rest of her army. The rest of her army are completely asleep. It's as if they've forgotten to join the battle, and he needs to wake those pieces up now. Also, the speed, it just feels like Aronian's a bit more quick. Right now, he's a bit more confident. And, yeah, it's early days. But you were saying, Simon, this type of opening, I think I was on that massive learning curve throughout my first 5-10 years of playing chess. I would lose countless games just to this type of opening, and it took a long, long time to realise, you know, what you should do, how to avoid any risk here, and Levon's found one of the paths. Yeah. Go back and look at this one myself.
Yeah, he's very, very experienced, isn't he, Levon? I mean, obviously in all the e4, e5, he's probably one of the best players, if not the best player, who plays one e5 nearly exclusively. But it's just like, for someone like me who's in my 40s, I'd love to learn one e5 because it's such a good move. But I really can't be bothered to learn all this stuff. It's just like, it's too much. And seeing these lines, which are obscure lines, it terrifies me. The process of learning this, you have to be extremely dedicated to and also just to remember all the lines, you know? I mean, can I remember this stuff now? I don't know. With the last move now, black opening up the position, and I really like black's position here.
Me too. Very thematic. You know, I have... in my 20s, I started this position, one of these type of positions, with a white side. And if black could usually get this pawn break, then with an open F-line, then they were having a great time.
Yeah, and it's also just about the fact that white's pieces aren't fully ready. So it follows classical wisdom. Levon's a very classical player. If the opponent's pieces aren't ready, here we're looking at white's pieces, especially on this left side. If they're asleep, if they're on their starting squares, open things up, accelerate the nature, the kind of pace of the game. And that's what he's doing. And white's knight is doing a little dance here. I think his idea is to, OK, I was going to say try and force some kind of repetition of moves, but an offer of a queen trade by Levon Aronian. If White says no to this, he's going to lag behind even more in development. But Duda, it's his style to keep queens on the board. So what will he do? Maybe trading queens is the safest, but he'll be reluctant to do that, especially with White.
But it also does feel like that White knight is on the wrong circuit, to be honest. I mean, it can't really jump to an effective square.
Trapped behind enemy lines, maybe?
Yeah, and you kind of feel like if there is a queen trade, and as it's happened, that knight could be vulnerable.
Yeah, quite possibly. White just needs to get his bishop out, though. Get that bishop off the first rank, connect the rooks. You need your rooks connected, you need them to be flexible. How calm is Levon Aronian, just leaning back in his chair? Such an important Blitz game as well.
I think so. He got asked whether he gets nervous in a previous tour, and he just said no. Just simply no. I mean, he just doesn't get nervous. He's so experienced. I mean, he's had so many stressful encounters over his life. It probably just doesn't affect him anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, he's won 2 World Cups, more than anyone else. And World Cups, they're fast, they're ferocious knockout tournaments where you have to play rapid chess, you have to play blitz chess, tie breaks, and he's navigated those successfully for his whole career. So, yeah, one of the most experienced warriors left on the tour. And, OK, this knight move by Duda, I quite like, just holding things together. Jovanka, you mentioned the knight wasn't necessarily on a great square. And Aronian says, OK, you can't take my bishop. No exchanges for you. But at least now, Black's pawn structure with the doubled c-pawns could potentially become loose if White can activate his pieces. But it's a big if right now. Also, Duda, 30 seconds, more than 30 seconds behind on the clock. Doesn't seem like much, but in blitz chess, could be a factor, gaining only 3 seconds after every move. OK, wow, this is Duda's style again. He's so forceful. He wants to force the issue on every turn. So he's traded a set of pawns. He's lured away Black's bishop from the centre so that he could capture still level pawns, but I'm expecting the other Black rook now to join the action. Black is going to be playing with 4 pieces. White is going to be playing with only 2. 2 of White's pieces still asleep. There we go.
Yeah.
Feels like momentum-wise, it's Black, it's Aronian.
It certainly does, you know. And Duda just on the defensive. And it's not easy to handle those 2 active rooks.
I mean, I was thinking knight c3, but then I think knight takes pawn works in that variation. I'd love to bring my knight back, defend some squares, but this could be actually a pretty nasty tactic if it works. I think it works, but I'm still saying that. There's a really bizarre bishop d2 check.
Yeah, maybe we'll quickly show this just because we do have a spare moment. Duda, he's under huge pressure. His knight is attacked. If he chooses the most natural retreat, the safest square, then as Simon points out, maybe Black can grab a pawn because here there will be a rook check. The White king forced out into the open. And I mean, at the very least, I think you can just take this bishop, but maybe even better, discover check and White's king in massive trouble. So, OK, he hasn't fallen for that trap, but instead he's walked into a self-pin, massive tension on this line. Let's go back to the players. It's definitely Duda on the defensive. He's clinging on for now.
Yeah.
1 minute down on the clock.
Yeah, and big threat on the position. White is actually threatening to put the knight on the f6 square, give a check to the king, and capture the rook on e8.
Yeah. So Aronian just has to make sure that all of his pieces are defended. That's maybe the one flaw in Black's setup, is that he does have some loose pieces. The Black rook, as Jovanka mentioned there, on the e8 square. OK, run away now to safety. Black's knight as well, slightly loose. You don't want loose pieces with no time on your clock. That's when bad things happen. But now White's central pawn, the isolated pawn in the middle there, might be dropping off. Still Black trying to make things happen.
Yeah.
It's also getting down to a minute now, Duda, as well. And as you're saying, it's quite hard to adjust to the time limits, right? They're playing 15 minutes, they get less increment now, and that does make a much more difference in these time controls when you get short. Yeah. So going for this, and things getting simplified though now.
Yeah, but Black has won a pawn.
Yeah.
Black's pawn structure on the queen side, not the best. Black does have 3 pawns versus 2 on that left side, but 2 of them are isolated. 2 of them are doubled. All 3 of them are isolated. And Duda just eyeing up some of those Black pawns. Who would you take here?
The black pieces, extra pawn. I'm a materialist. I like it.
Was it you, though, who told me, Jovanka, that rook and bishop work better than rook and knight in games?
Yes.
So, yeah, Black does have the extra pawn, but White has maybe the better kind of combination of pieces.
Yeah. And, well, Levon gives his king a little square and also kicks back the bishop. I like this move. And where will the bishop go to? Perhaps it has to retreat and attack the rook.
Yeah, the rook moves to safety. And yeah, if all of the rooks come off, if black can centralise his king, the extra pawn will start to count. So maybe some quite clever play here from Aronian, but Duda's still rock solid with white. I'm expecting a set of 1 rook trades, and then the white king can start centralising maybe. Still, it's not easy to win back that pawn for white.
And what about this? Duda is now under a minute. He has 39 seconds left on the clock. Clock is ticking. Oof. And knights are really crafty pieces because they're somehow, with the way that they move, it's difficult to gauge. And now Duda just relocates his bishop to the long diagonal.
Yeah, really nice move. That bishop is not going to get kicked away anytime soon.
And they have, of course, been used to the whole day in rapid chess to 10 seconds increment. But now in the Blitz, they only get 3 seconds. So that clock will now tick very fast for Jan Christoph Duda.
Aronian, I mean, the speed he's been playing is super impressive.
Yeah.
Normally there's this kind of this cliche, this myth that older players maybe struggle with Blitz, but not in Aronian's case.
Yeah.
OK, he's jumped in with his knight. Now there has been this exchange. Maybe this game... OK, will fizzle towards a draw. Duda, though, offering a trade of pawns here. And black's king is coming. I love this move from Aronian, not being greedy, not trying to cling onto his extra pawn, giving the pawn back in order to gain 2 moves for the black king to rush towards the centre. Black's king is winning the race compared to the white king at the moment.
Yeah, black certainly has the better chances here and the better time at the moment, so... It'd be a big win with the black pieces. We managed to take this one.
You know what? I think Levon is going to win this. I mean, the black king is coming in.
He's kept the pawn as well,
He has kept the pawn.
Yeah.
And
why did he do that one, though?
Yeah, I was expecting the king to come in and join the rook. And he has gone for a different approach. Maybe this is the idea. Repeat the position once.
Yeah.
And then kind of... commit to the king.
Strange, but yeah, it's white really struggling here at the moment. 20 seconds on the clock as well, and well, this is the big thing. Bring the king in now, surely. Surely the king comes.
Black's king defends everything in the centre of the board.
It comes.
Yep. And now 1 extra pawn and almost 1 extra minute on the clock. Duda, he's never going to... well, he's always going to be in time trouble now. He's never going to feel safe on the clock. Just give a check with the black rook now. You have a choice of 2 squares. Keep that black rook safe if you can.
And he's kept that extra pawn. That's the important thing. He's now, I'd say, a relatively safe pawn up in this position. And, you know, that counts. Definitely.
Yeah, but there's one big trick on the position that he has to think about. And I was going to say, after pawn takes pawn, there is the possibility of white giving a check with a rook. But that seems to be under control.
Yeah, if white's rook gives a check, black's king would just move towards that white rook and win the game. So, OK, we will see an imbalance of pawn structure. Black is now 2 pawns up, but white's rook is on that dream 7th rank, hitting a couple of pawns. Is it time for a race?
I think black's pawns are so quick, though, aren't they? I mean, you know, black can just defend and push, surely, here.
Yeah.
I mean,
put the rook to defend the C pawn. OK, he's gone back with the king. Same idea, though. It is the A pawn that is going to be racing, but...
I mean, they say connected passed pawns are very good, but in these kind of race situations, it's just who's got the most advanced pawn. And black's pawn is nearer to queening the white's pawn. And I think that is probably going to be a deciding factor now. That pawn, it's so close now.
3 squares away from promotion.
It's alone, though. It can be stopped.
It is alone. Yeah, it's true.
Now the black king is going to come. And...
yeah,
it's still a race. It's still not completely clear.
Not easy now, especially because the white pawns are also going to be motoring.
And this is great defence. I mean, in a rook ending, if your opponent's got a passed pawn, try to get your rook behind the passed pawn. This is basic 101 chess when you're trying to play these endings. So just remember that, rook behind, very hard to push. And yeah, I think it's...
Anyone's game now.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? I mean,
but how about that other black pawn? Can that start pushing as well?
Can. And Aronian now, he's calculating, there we go, Kaya, you predicted it.
Wow.
Nice one. I was going to say he's either going to start pushing the black king or he's going to start pushing that black pawn, but white's pawn suddenly only 3 squares away as well.
I think he's going to bail out with a draw.
Yeah.
He's shaking his head. Too much risk. This race now is too close. White's pawn is too far advanced. I think his big mistake, Aronian, was putting the black king so far away from his pawn. He should have brought the black king earlier. He had time to bring it down, and here we're going to see a repetition of the position. Is Duda going to play for the win? Wow. OK, he's moving his king away. If black gives another check, is he going to try and hide the white king now?
I think he might do that.
Incredible. But then you can always go rook back one square to draw easily, can't you? Yeah.
There we go. The end of the fun. It is a draw, but a missed opportunity for Aronian.
With the black pieces as well. That was the first Blitz game, a draw. In 5 minutes, Blitz game number 2 will start, and Levon Aronian will have the white pieces. So would you say